Just logging on, we'll be getting started in just a minute. Just waiting for a few more people. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So hi all, and thank you for joining us today. Before we get started, I just want to cover a couple housekeeping items. So to interact with our chat today, to comment or ask questions, you'll just need to subscribe to our channel. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can interact with us today. Also, as a quick disclaimer, we will be recording the session today for our registrants. So I just want to note that this presentation is being done in early November of 2023. With the ever-changing landscape of AI and Google Duet, we're presenting with the most up-to-date information that we have at this point in time. So with all that out of the way, thanks again for joining Burwood today as we cover Google Duet, an AI tool within Google Workspace. If you're not familiar with Burwood Group, we are an IT, strategic, and consulting services company, really focused on helping our clients evaluate and embrace digital transformation across the entire IT lifecycle. For today's session, we'll do a deep dive into the world of AI with a focus on Google's Duet. We'll cover some of the basics of AI, specifics around Duet, and maybe some comparisons, as well as some of the more frequently asked questions as it comes to this technology. After the presentation, or a little bit during the presentation, we'll get into a demo of Duet and some Q&A. But first, let's introduce our session speakers for the day. So first, my name is Kim Richmond. I'm the practice manager of our collaboration platforms team. Our team really focuses on multiple collaboration solutions such as Cisco, Microsoft Teams, and of course, Google Workspace. Our team has in-depth knowledge and technical expertise across all platforms and are happy to help our clients get the most out of their collaboration solutions. Joining me today is our subject matter expert on Google Workspace, Stephen Gale. Stephen has over 10 years of experience within the Google realm. He is an experienced Google Workspace administrator and consultant with deep knowledge of the Google ecosystem, including Google Workspace best practices and Chrome OS capabilities and limitations. So Stephen, as we jump into our topic today, AI is literally everywhere nowadays. So it's infiltrating every aspect of our daily lives and rapidly transforming the way we work and live. So no one is exempt from feeling its effects, no matter which role they have or what vertical they work in. So what do we need to know to prepare ourselves?
So one of the key things you brought up is AI is everywhere. Everyone's using it, whether officially or unofficially. In a poll, 56% of workers in the U.S. polled said that they're already using a generative AI on the job, with 1 in 10 using it daily. Some of the things that when they were asked about how are you using it, they said, well, generating drafts, brainstorming, doing research, finding out more about a given subject or topic. And a lot of the times when they're doing that, they're doing it as kind of a consumer. They're using the products that have been presented to them, which can be extremely detrimental from a business perspective, especially since consumer products, you have no guarantee that they are not going to use that information to train their models, to train your competition, to protect your interests as a organization, as a business, as an entity. So when we're talking about generative AI, we've got a few different options that are out there, and more coming every day, it feels like. Right here, we're talking about the different kinds of offerings that are out there, whether it's as a consumer, the day-to-day person who is using generative AI for their making a meal plan or doing some shopping, or they want to write a review that'll get lots of views on a YouTube algorithm or something, or if they're wanting to draft something for their children's teacher, thanking them for all of the extra work that they put in throughout the week. Consumers, absolutely, one of the key focuses. But there's also another area of focus, and that's the enterprise user. With the enterprise user, most generative AI solutions will have some form of an enterprise option. So OpenAI has an enterprise option, and this isn't just I paid for OpenAI. It's a literal AI option that has a separate terms of service. If you're using Google Bard is the consumer-facing version where, it's connected to the internet, and Google will use your information to update and ensure that the data that they're providing Bard users is most up to date. But things like Duet or Microsoft's Copilot, both of which the Burwood group we support, are enterprise solutions where we will take care of the content, and there are measures put in place to make sure that your data stays safe, protected, and isn't used to train the models and isn't used to train your competition. So those are kind of the different personas and the different offerings that are out there.
Great. So, sorry, we had a couple people join after I said our first comment. If you do want to ask questions or interact with us today, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can access our chat. But let's get us back on track after I said that. So it seems there are multiple personas, multiple solutions out there. So for example, Copilot is also enterprise, which if anyone here has questions on that, we do have a team that can speak to that. But today, let's focus on the enterprise persona of Google, which is Google Duet. So how do we get to this? How did we get to this stage of the tool? And maybe what's the background?
Yeah, so Google's been doing machine learning, artificial intelligence. They've been doing stuff in that realm for a long time. And if you go back to 2015 in Google Sheets, they would offer saying, you know what, I bet this would look pretty good in a chart. Why don't you make it a chart? Or they'll suggest some actions within a document, such as updating headers or making your document look better. And they've done some iterative changes throughout their Workspace offerings. One of the items that I'm going to call out here that many of you probably haven't heard of is Google's tool called Cloud Search. This isn't the search within google.com. This is actually an enterprise tool that Google has, still alive and well, that's within the Plus subscription right now. And the reason I'm calling out Cloud Search is because some things adopt better than others. Cloud Search as a service was and is a place where you can go in, you can say, hey, I've got a meeting with Kim, and we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. So I put in Kim Richmond, Stephen Gale, artificial intelligence, and it surfaces all of my calendar events, all of my documents, all of my presentations and spreadsheets and everything within the Google Workspace environment into a single location where I can then say, okay, yes, these are the resources that I was looking for, much more easily, much more quickly than many of the other offerings. I no longer have to go through Drive and dig through Drive and look for it. The reason that most of you have probably not heard of Cloud Search, though, is it has its own separate interface. I won't say it's the separation of Cloud Search as it's failing, but I will say that Google hasn't seen as much adoption of it because of that separation. From that point, they started taking more of an integrated perception, where we're now making small changes within an application to apply machine learning, to suggest something that, this is how you normally talk when you're sending an email to this specific individual, whether it's your boss or a coworker or your wife. It will learn from your past inputs and make suggestions. Spelling and grammar check. These all become very intuitive as we see them in place within the document. And so Google's taken that same idea of making it integrated and applied it into their Duet. So Duet is a integrated interface where you can interact with a generative AI for the Google Workspace offerings.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a huge past here, right? A lot has happened over the past several years. See the history of Google is and how they're trying to really tie everything together. So what does Duet specifically bring to the table? How do we incorporate this into our daily lives and take advantage of this innovation?
Sure. So Duet is designed to help with writing, visualizing, organizing, connecting. Those are kind of the buckets where Google has categorized them as. And rather than just say, well, these are the things that Google does, let's take a dive into kind of a demonstration. So here we've got an account. I have a Duet license applied to me. So when I open up a new Google document, for example, the first thing that I'm going to see at the top is help me write. With that help me write, I can now click on it to bring up a modal box that says, I want to, its offer was, or its auto prompt was, create a job offer letter. I've got kind of a pre-written prompt. I want to write a letter of recommendation for a coworker who's looking to start a new career as a Google Workspace consultant. Include accolades about their knowledge of Google Workspace and also praise them on their project management. So I'm going to hit create. Google takes a little bit of time. It's usually around 20 seconds or so. And it will then create a template where we can go in and interact with this. You can see there's a few items in here, and it has some boxes where we can fill in the coworker's name and such. I'm writing to recommend coworker for the position of Google Workspace consultant. I've had the pleasure for working with coworker for the past. It knows that I've done 3 years. I've seen sometimes where it'll box that out and say number of years at the company name. This may seem a little too informal, although to whom it may concern sounds fairly formal, but we do have the option to come in here and say, you know what, that you're going on too long. Let's shorten that. We may want to elaborate. Let's lengthen it or adjust the tone. So I'm going to say, we're going to change the tone of this one to formal. So within the formal tone, now it's taking that same prompt, and rather than running it through the typical, it's now saying, let's do it at a formal pace. And I think this is really important to call out. Creative writing aids are not meant to be factual. It doesn't know that this information that that it's providing is accurate. This is simply a writing aid to help get those creative juices going, to provide me an ad lib or a mad lib, where you can then fill in the accurate information. If I say, yeah, all of that looks good, I can say insert, and awesome. So I'm going to say, Dear Kim, I'm writing, and you'll notice that this is, we'll do Kim Richmond. I'm writing to recommend Stephen Gale for the position of Google Workspace consultant. And you'll notice that in each of those boxes, when I click away from it, it now has updated those. This is using some of the built-in previous things that we talked about within Google Docs back on that other slide that we were looking at, where it's now taking that next iterative step. It's saying, if you are unfamiliar with the building blocks, This is using building blocks. And so now I can say, for the past 3 years at the Burwood group, during that time, I've been consistently impressed with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so here I'll just say Stephen rather than Stephen Gale. And then sincerely, Damien. And when I say that looks good, I can then take this, use this as a template for an email and send it off, or provide it as a letter of reference and what have you. So this is one example of how you would use Duet AI in a writing environment. It's important to note that if you are using a blank document, you get the prompt that I showed at the beginning. Whereas if you're using a document that already has something, you get different information. So now that this has some content, I can highlight and say, you know what, I want you to summarize this for me. And within that summarization, it will say, well, what was within that is, and it will collapse it and condense it and say, this is a summary of the section that you highlighted. That can then be exported or copied or inserted into the same document. All of these same features that exist within the Google Docs also exist in Gmail. Google Docs is easier for me to work with and show and demonstrate in our example here. The other items that were kind of highlighted, or the other areas where we see Duet AI for Google Workspace, are in Sheets and in Slides, or the spreadsheet environment and the presentation, slideshow presentation environment. You can see here I've got kind of a scratch pad. I want to use this prompt within Duet AI for Google Sheets. So here I've got Sheets. I don't see my item. I probably had this open while I didn't have a license. So if you ever have an issue where you're not seeing the Duet prompt, first thing you need to do is ensure you have a license assigned. And next, after that, I would generally say reload the page. Reloaded the page, there it is. I can click on it. And now the options that exist within the slides is creating images with Duet AI. I will say that artificial intelligence and images, not exactly perfect. We're going to give it this initial one of a 3D cityscape that resembles Chicago. We do have a drop down here of styles. I could say I want it as a sketch. I want a watercolor. I'm going to leave it with no style for now. Let the AI go whatever it feels with in this regard. And again, it could take a minute. I will mention that the AI is programmed to not use anything that has been a copyrighted image. So, for example, if I said I wanted to superimpose the Burwood Group's logo over the top of that cityscape, the AI would generate a random logo and say, well, you could use this as your logo. It won't use a copyrighted a copyrighted image. And that also goes for the writing. If you were saying, I want to include information about Snoopy as a dog, it'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So all of these are very plain. So I'm going to come up here and make a tweak. Let's do a colorful. And maybe say and include about 20% skyline. So we can make tweaks before we insert our images. Now that it's going and it's creating the new image, hopefully we'll find something to our liking. Those are extremely colorful. Yeah, colorful maybe wasn't the best modifier. Daytime representation rather than that. So the idea being we also do have the old versions that we can scroll down. I'm starting to like this one a little bit more based on the last insert. Okay, that one's not too bad. I like that one. So I thumbs upped it, gave it feedback. When I click on it, it inserts it. I can then cut and paste and move and what have you. When I said AI and images aren't exactly awesome, I'm going to give you the example of the first prompt I tried. Create an image of a horse, a dog, and a pig visiting New York. Include at least one familiar site, such as Broadway, the New York Stock Exchange, Empire State Building, or the Statue of Liberty. And here are some examples of what I ended up with. So some of these you can kind of see that almost, I'm not sure if this is a pig right here or what exactly it is, but AI is still trying to figure some things out. It kind of looks like a dog and a pig, and I think I see a human ear. Anyway, something to keep in mind, though, is these are artificially generated. They can then be manipulated, copied, pasted, moved to another platform. We could then insert our logo above it, what have you. Within Sheets, the main focus was organization, and that does make sense. When you're doing tables and such, you're trying to keep things orderly. And so, again, I'm not seeing my thing, so I'm going to reload my page, and there it is. So for a prompt, I am going to lean more towards the education side of things. Create a course description. Let's have a course description for a semester-long course on artificial intelligence. And I gave some basic details about what would be included within the course. And it's going to generate basically a short table of these are the things, Oops. Let's go ahead and hit preview on this one. I was hoping to make it bigger. Anyway, so it gives me a number of credit hours, the meeting times, who the instructor is, and again, this is all made up. I will say that this is one of the areas that Duet AI has a lot of room to grow. I've done things like help me make a week-long meal plan, and it does a decent job. But then when I say help me make a budget, it populates the budget with a lot of the things that I should be aware of, but it doesn't complete the formulas. So if I adjust the price, it doesn't dynamically adjust it. So there's definitely it's in its infancy, and has been kind of designed to act as a foundation where you can come in behind it and clean things up and make sure that that the information is accurate and that the functions and formulas work. And so lastly is on connecting. And so I'm going to real quick go back here. So with connecting, Duet AI can do dynamic backgrounds. I can say I want to create a background of outside, make it a photo, a calm, serene pasture. I might end up with cows in the background or something along those lines. It will do real-time translation into other languages, which is currently a feature of the Google Workspace for Education Plus SKU. Google's moving that away from the Workspace for Education Plus SKU and moving it into the Duet AI SKU, or the Duet AI offering. So if real-time translation is something that is important, then those users will have to have a different license assigned to them than what they presently have. But one of the other super helpful things Duet AI will do is Duet AI will add someone, or excuse me, when I'm in a meeting like we are right now, and I add someone who's new to that meeting, it will automatically summarize what has taken place and what the person's missed. So whether it was due to an invitation or some other justification of, you know what, let's invite a couple of our salespeople or our account representatives to join our meeting. They would receive a summary that says, Stephen has been talking for the last 10 minutes about Duet AI and its capabilities. It will give a summary of what happened and what they've missed. So I'm going to add in two of our account executives, Mark Heil and Matt Egan. So welcome, Mark and Matt. And I think you may be muted. There you go.
Hello. Yes, I am. Here we are. Even.
So, right, Mark, Matt, tell us. You're both account executives for the Burwood Group, and you work with Google, our Google Workspace offerings, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Great to be here. Thanks for going through the demo and the presentation. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about Duet AI over the last several weeks and months. It comes up quite a bit. So this is great just to see it in action. I know we have, with a lot of folks on here, we have probably a lot of regular cadence calls where we discuss things like this. But if you have questions about this further, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Matt, who's on the screen as well. We could talk about things about how to get this deployed, the licensing around it and things like that, and what it would take to get you up and running. And even meet one-on-one together with Stephen and kind of walk through some things, customize for your specific environment. So once again, thanks everybody for joining, and Stephen and Kim, thanks for running through the presentation.
Yeah, and I would just add real quick too is like Mark had mentioned, getting a lot of requests around AI. It's obviously a very hot topic. Burwood aims with this presentation, with this session, and future sessions, to take that journey with you, right? Get folks comfortable, provide the structure, provide the visibility in harnessing AI, right? Like that's what we would like to do and partner with you on. So like Mark said, we welcome the conversation. Feel free to tap us on the shoulder. Happy to take a deeper dive into your use cases and looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for jumping in. I do want to mention that before we move into the questions, I haven't been keeping an eyeball on the chat. Hopefully we have a couple of our other team members that have been, and Kim, I'm hoping you're at least up to speed on it. But before we go there, the Google has provided a guide to AI in the education sector. The link is here on the screen. It will also be included in the follow-up email if you haven't signed up or registered for this meeting. If you found us some other way, feel free to reach out. We can get you a link to the resources, and we'll possibly, I'm not putting this on anyone who may or may not be listening, update our description to include that. that link as well.
Awesome. So, yeah, just a reminder to everyone, if you do have questions or want to interact with us, you can go ahead and click that subscribe button, and then you'll be able to interact with our chat to submit your questions. We do have a couple like commonly asked questions that we've prepared here, in the meantime. So, first question for you, Stephen, can education domains get a trial of Duet AI?
So short version is no. Google has basically said, because of all of the headache that can come along with trials, whether that's automatic transitioning to paid subscription or lots of different potential justifications, they've said, we're not offering trials for education institutions, whether it's higher ed or K-12. However, one of the things that we've been working with is getting customers onto a flex plan. And a flex plan is effectively you pay for what you use. So if you say, I want a flex plan we'll have maybe 5 people at a time or 15 people at a time at a maximum, you're then paying for not just those 15 licenses, and if they never get assigned, they never get assigned, but only for the licenses that become assigned. So we're using, though Google has said no, we are able to say, well, you can have a trial in that it's a paid trial. You pay for only what you're using and only what you assign.
Better than nothing, I guess.
It's better than nothing. And for now, when Google says no, I usually say, well, let's see what we can do.
Right. All right, great. Next question. So how does Duet AI for Google Workspace relate to Google Cloud Platform's Duet AI and AI-based functionality with GCP?
And that's a great question because Google has this awesome, wonderful habit of naming multiple somewhat connected platforms the same thing, like Hangouts and Hangouts. Hangouts chat, meaning an instant messenger, and then Hangouts video calling. And they're not connected whatsoever. So Duet AI for Google Workspace, which is what we've been talking about, specifically does not connect to Duet AI for GCP or for Google Cloud, other than they use the same engines. They use the same backend. If you wanted to sign up for a Duet AI for Google Cloud as a developer to build an application and use the programming interface, whether it's a standalone IDE or the Google Cloud engine interface, that is a separate SKU. It's not something we've been talking about, and it would have its own separate licensing. Matt and Mark can probably get you some more information about that. I'm volunteering them, and they don't look too worried when I say their names. So I would say if you do have questions about, well, what is the cost difference, they would be the people to communicate with. As far as the functionality difference, one of them is explicitly within the Workspace environment, the Gmail, Google Drive via Sheets, Docs, and presentations. And the other is within the Google Cloud Platform environment.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I would just say, I know the focus around here is specifically around Google Workspace and Duet AI, but we are happy to support both conversations in the Workspace realm and the Google Cloud realm. Whichever the use case is pointed at, we're here to support that. So definitely thank you for including that.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So kind of jumping back to our first question, we had another question come in. When you were talking about the trial of Duet, you mentioned something about headaches within higher education, regarding higher education. We had a question about which headaches are you referring to?
So generally the headaches that I've seen relate to licensing. And so much of the time, licensing is an afterthought. It is very much we're used to a set it and forget it, or create a scheduled task, or something along those lines. If we aren't doing a set it and forget it model, and we're actively involved in our Google Workspace environment, the headaches are less because we have someone who's dedicated to that task. But if it's kind of an afterthought, then we end up with someone had an account, or excuse me, a license assigned for 3 months. They never used it, but because it was assigned, we're being charged for it. Those types of situations.
Got it. And then going along the trial further, can you talk a little bit more about the way the licensing works, or what a minimum size would be as far as purchasing?
So I'm going to again focus on the Workspace for, Duet for Workspace, as opposed to the Duet for GCP. There are no minimums.
No minimum.
If you said we want to do a single license, not a problem. If you want to do a flex plan where you said we're buying 15 license, but we never assigned 15, then you don't get charged for any, because the flex plan, you pay for what you assign, not you pay for what you have available. So that's why I was saying we could use that as kind of a dip your toe in the water model.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool. Next question. What are the terms of service for the Duet AI for Google Workspace add-on?
They're the exact same as your premium, your Workspace for education environment. So your Google Workspace for education environment has a list of terms of service. Those same terms of service are applicable to any of the paid licenses that you apply to your tenant, which includes Workspace for Education Plus, which would include teaching and learning, which would include Google Voice, and does include the Duet AI for Workspace.
Okay. Next, what LLM does Duet AI for Google Workspace use?
So this is an interesting one because Copilot uses ChatGPT. That is the back-end engine that is driving the car. Google has developed multiple LLMs. The primary one that they're using is called Palm, but they do have some other ones. And think about where I selected formal versus casual. Those are going to use different language models and that's what LLM stands for. If I glazed over that, I apologize. But it's going to use primarily Palm, but one of the primary benefits of that is it is 100% controlled by Google. Google is the gatekeeper of the data 100%, as opposed to using a third party and relying on a third party's security and functionality.
Got it. So where does that training data come from for Google?
Great question, because Duet's training data is a different set than Bard's training data. So both are Google products, but they are, one's an enterprise level and one's a consumer level. Google has said that the language model comes from publicly available sources. So things that you would be able to find publicly out there on the internet. And again, it's a language model, not a data source. The way language models work is by predicting what the next word is within the context, within the sentence. So that's why they can seem spookily familiar, but it's really all math. And statistically, the next word in this sentence is fill in the blank. and then reevaluate and fill in the blank, and reevaluate and fill in the blank, and so on until you have the desired length, or what is thought of as the desired length.
Great. So I know privacy and security is kind of an issue with some companies. So, I mean, can customers use private data sets to train Duet AI for Google Workspace?
Not right now. So Google is extremely cautious about using privately trained or privately held data sets. And in fact, I've got something, let me find it real quick. So they have said it is something that they are currently looking into as having a data set similar to one of their other AI capabilities is the originality reports. So an originality report is a shared drive within Google Drive that is used as a reference to determine is the assignment that was sent unique from an assignment that I have in my reference. So it uses AI to say somebody copied and pasted, and that's based off of a private set of data. They've been looking at it and saying, well, how do we implement it while still maintaining that this is isolated from the rest of the training data? Currently, the LLM that we're accessing through Duet is read-only. So it is a snapshot in time of that public data, and it cannot be updated, which is one way we know that we can submit something that is, we'll say, confidential to the LLM or to Duet, and know that that information isn't going to bleed out to another, even internal customer. Because you may have something that you're saying, I want to train it on this internally, but I only want to train it on that internally for a subset of users. So we'd ultimately end up making multiple LLMs. Now, that isn't talking about Duet for GCP. Duet for GCP, you can build your own language models, but that would be if you're looking to, as a developer, create something for consumption of an external user or a subset of internal users even.
Got it. Okay. So where is an organization's data stored for Duet?
So again, the stored data is it follows the same policies as your Google Workspace. So if you have set up, say, data regions on your users' accounts, it's stored within Google's data centers within those data regions. If you haven't set up data regions, then it's stored within the Google Workspace environment.
Great. So as we were going through the demo, you called out a couple like caveats as far as like the writing and all of that. So are there any restrictions to using Duet?
So the primary restriction is it's English. Duet, I tried it on a German page and it's like, no, I don't speak German. And at least at present, they have said you can only sign up for Duet if you are one of the following entity types. So I'm grateful that they have said you can be a Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals customer to sign up for Duet. So you do not there are some restrictions, but let's see, it says, I'm looking for it now. So it's the Fundamentals, Standard, Teaching and Learning, and Plus upgrades are the ones that they have listed. So Fundamentals is the one that every education institution has. So as long as you have fundamentals, you should be fine, as long as you're a verified Google domain.
Perfect. Well, we do have more questions, but we're at time. So we'll go ahead and try to answer the rest of the frequently asked questions that we have, and any questions that were in the chat that we couldn't answer in our follow-up email. But I want to go ahead and say, thanks to everyone for joining us today. We hope that it was an engaging session, that you learned had some valuable insights talked about. So if you do have any questions or follow-up questions, please reach out to either Mark or Matt or ourselves. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.